cheeky little bounce. Oh, well done. Runs towards goal. It's a chance. It's as good as you'll ever see. Oh, well done, Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
From the boundary line.
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary Podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce. We are here for a finals edition of Behind the Boundary Podcast. After a stellar home and away season, Sauce, we're very, very excited, even though it was a little bit dampened by that, what was it, a week off before finals to get everyone right for their injuries.
Hey, Pez, I was a little bit confused what you were talking about there because we had a great absolute punting season, Pez, and I didn't have any damper in there, but you're obviously talking about the AFL's decision to have the pre-finals bye, and whilst it's good for the teams to be able to get back to, you know, tip-top form and being able to have rest their players, it takes away a little bit from, you know, living in Melbourne or wherever you're living and the footy banter and the footy, you know, vibe that comes around the AFL in the lead up to it. We're recording this on a Monday night, Pez, quite late, mind you, quite late on a Monday night, and it hasn't quite hit yet. We've got 3 games in Melbourne this week. And, you know, I think it takes it away a little bit. You see other sports around the world, they've started to bring in sort of those, what do they call them, the play-in games and, you know, providing a little bit of AFL football last week wouldn't have gone astray for me.
Here we go, coming to change all the rules here, Sauce. But no, it was a dampener on it because at the workplace, you're not really speaking about finals footy because it's over a week away, yeah? Mm-hmm. And then by the time Friday comes, you're like, oh, what's on for the weekend? You know, you don't have AFL footy. Some local footy clubs weren't playing. And then you look into the next week, it's just turned Monday. So I know after this podcast is released, everyone's going to be buzzing. We're going to be talking
down
about
at the water cooler, Pez. Everyone will be buzzing. Blop, 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 blop. Getting all the little form up there.
No good from you. But end of the home and away season, round 24, we both got a week off. The CEO of BTB gave us a week off for our decent season this year. So I went 2 from 2 in round 24, just had the Dogs to win and Taylor Walker most goals, which was pretty much free money there, and plus 2.3 units for that round to take me to 39.74 units of profit for season 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't let you know about this, Pez. I actually had a phone call during the week about scammers, and they were a bit uncertain what had happened because my bank was really uncertain about what was happening because it was a week I didn't deposit any money in there because of all my winnings.
The reverse scam.
The reverse scam. They're like, hey, is everything all right? Like you didn't deposit heaps of units into the bank account. I said, it's AFL Finals. Had a week off, just getting my eye in for coming into finals.
There's the biggest floggish thing you have said on this podcast in 6 seasons.
In 6 seasons. You know what? I'm surprised it's taking me that long to act like a flog because 6 seasons of profit, Pez. If I talk about my last round, which is, again, no surprise, profit, I staked 8 units, returned 3.92 units. The only bet that I lost was my sneaky live bet, Pez, and I don't mind losing that for a bit of I was getting a bit bored, I said, on the Sunday, just you win, so I threw something at the stumps. It didn't take off, but for the season, 192 units staked and returned 79.94, so an ROI of 41 and absolutely rolling in the green, Pez.
Yeah, and Taylor Walker most goals against Adelaide.
Free money.
He had it there, kicked his way to lead the Coleman medal going into Sunday, and Charlie Curnow obviously won the Coleman medal. He got 2 quick goals in that first quarter and put it to bed, just like Carlton did with the game, laying down to the GWS Giants there. But we're heading to finals footy, so let's get into it. This is going to be huge. We're 119.68 units up for the season, so we're definitely not going to lose that in the finals. So we are going into...
Tell you what, Pez, if we my bank will be calling me if I stake 190 something units or 79 units, Pez. They definitely will be. The missus might knock on my my door and there might be an intervention with money, Pez.
Mate, lock it in. 6 out of 6 profitable seasons, publicly profitable, might I say, because
just putting it out there, Pez.
Everything's out there. Winners,
accountable,
losers,
transparency.
All is accountable, and we're ready to go for a massive show.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Our bets with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate, and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
oh yes,
Not going to mess around, Pez. Not going to mess around at all like the AFL has a week off. Straight into this week's specials.
Sanu takes a special and goes bang.
Now,
You're looking pretty chuffed over there,
no,
Desi.
I've just heard
Sportsbet actually released something.
Just heard the intro.
Yeah.
Just heard the intro for the thing, and Heath Shaw is on there. You know,
correct.
Putting a bit of $10
Just
on.
a cheeky 10.
And he plays with my kid's uncle, at East Keilor. So they're playing at East Keilor. He plays there, ex-AFL footballer. You know, I'll go to watch him from time to time. He's pretty good in defence.
How's he tracking?
Kicks pretty good. You know, he looks not as fit as he once was, but he's looking all right. But presentation night they had on Friday night, I didn't go or anything, but they usually give out awards, yeah? What award do you reckon he won in terms of best and fairest and all that?
Is it a real award?
It's a real award. He won it on the night.
Is it like a league award, or is it just their best and fairest?
Just the club.
Maybe most courageous captain?
You're going to say ex-AFL player, most improved.
Most improved. Oh, geez, that is the biggest dig.
Went up, 25-minute speech. Text the group text in the morning. Hey boys, what award did I win last night?
Wow. That is so good by the club to they're taking the mickey.
That's a dig,
They're
isn't
taking
it?
the mickey, aren't they?
That is a dig.
Isn't that the old fig jam? I reckon that all year long Heath Shaw's gone the old the fig jam in a couple of times. Like, this is all right. So the boys have riled him up there. Well done.
If he wasn't pissed, you can't go up and accept that. That's
no. But do you know what? I love that he's leaned into it. Love that he leaned into it and he just rattled off a 25-minute speech. Was he aware that he was going to win it or?
Oh, no idea. And I don't think he was aware that he was there that night. So
that good a form, was he?
Yeah.
I wonder how many cheeky tens he put down, eh?
Most improved. He would have, but
cheeky live bet. You reckon he was playing just the QR?
he would have done something. That was very special, and that's why
that was special.
That reminded me of that. But we're talking about specials this week. Sportsbet have come to the party on a Monday, which is decent. Thursday night, the same game multi, second chance. If it doesn't win, you get a second chance. I think it's got to be over $2 there. And Bluebet have the 12-up promo at halftime, so they've kept that all season pretty much, and for finals as well.
Yeah,
so
well
kudos
done,
to them.
Bluebet.
To put it out for Monday. Nothing else floating around at the moment, as I can see. So keep your eye out closer to the bounce of all the games. If you want to snag another.
You want a snab?
Snab.
What's
Just
a
invented
snab?
it.
That's when you go to the Bunnings sausages and you don't get one. It's the old snab. That's like the snag and the snob.
Beautiful. There's the specials.
Jesus, we can tell we're up and about and we're a little bit off track coming into this, but something that's not going to be off track, Pez, is this game. This is going to be an absolute banger. You know, we're going to have a packed ground. Pez, we were talking before about the Ticketet and then getting the tickets for this game.
Absolutely horrible system.
Oh, okay.
And you cannot do it. This game, you could hardly get tickets 15 minutes into it, where at one stage there was only single seats available when you click best available, restricted view. So up in the bleachers behind the scoreboard, this place is going to be packed to the brim. There's going to be punch-ons galore. The police are going to have to be out there as well, and there's going to be some fans locked up, I reckon, in this one.
I hope it's not me. I mean, I have a bit of a smart mouth. I'm going there to that game, Pez. I got a free ticket for that one. I'm going to have a couple of cheeky beverages. So,
yeah,
I'm sitting in the Collingwood section too, going for spoiler alert.
You couldn't pay me to go and sit in there.
I might just roll a couple up and just look for old sauce on there and just I might start doing the Melbourne. But anyway, let's
hate Melbourne as well. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but they're playing Collingwood, so I don't mind Melbourne.
Yes.
Do you know what, Pez? You know what I don't hate? I don't hate winning. So that's who I'm going to be cheering for. And
yeah, you're winning.
I don't hate
Ralph
I don't
Wiggum. It reminds me of Ralph Wiggum. Go banana.
All right, let's get into things. It's getting a little bit
I'm in
late
your head,
and
yeah.
crazy. You're in my head. Collingwood taking on Melbourne. First plays fourth. $1.81 favourites are the Magpies. Melbourne outsiders $2.04. -2.5 is the line. Over under 155.5. Pez. This over under total has been absolutely crunched. It opened at $1.65 at the start of the week, and a lot of people talk about trends in finals. And one of the things that we see a lot of with finals is low scoring games, and that's a trend that has continued and has been definitely documented the last couple of years. That's why it's been crunched so much. Do you think that game's going to replicate the last couple of years, low scoring game?
Well, I think it might. We've got 128 points were scored in the game as total game points last time between Melbourne and Collingwood. But you got to remember, Melbourne dominated that second half. They kicked 8 goals, 18 for the game. So they had a lot of scoring opportunities and couldn't capitalise. So Thursday night footy, we'll see if anything's different. The focus is going to be on defence. And we haven't seen the best of both of these sides because, you got to save a bit in the tank for finals footy. They've both got pretty strong defences as well. So you got Stephen May and Jake Lever down one end. You got Darcy Moore down the other end who tries to be the general. And Melbourne are going to somehow try and take advantage of him because if he is one-on-one and he's not the one floating in, he can be a little bit vulnerable. And I think the other advantage Melbourne has is definitely in the ruck with Max Gawn. Collingwood haven't found their ruck identity yet. Darcy Cameron, struggling to find his way back after injury. You got Mason Cox, who in and out of the side. Is he going to be able to play? Some Collingwood fans really like him, and I just think he's a massive liability for them to run through the ruck. A few different injuries to some forwards as well. So we'll just see who can kick the biggest score. There's a massive, massive battle in the midfield. Big game players. You got Christian Petrarca on one side. You got Jordan De Goey on the other. And then you got, your Pendlebury, you got your Vineys, you got your Clayton Olivers. It is action-packed, superstars everywhere, and this is going to be a massive clash at the MCG.
Massive clash in at the MCG on the ground, Pez, and also in the stands because Brodie Grundy is going to be in the stand, getting paid from both of them, getting paid from both clubs, watching a final. That's a good investment for both teams there.
Yeah, good on him. What's he doing? Is he hoping for a Max Gawn injury at the end of a prelim or something?
He's got better luck trying to steal Mason Cox's spot than getting into that Melbourne side.
Is he still on the list? They can still pay him.
He's still getting paid.
You know what? If I was Collingwood, I'd love to slot Grundy into the ruck
100%. It'd be amazing.
Head-to-head with Gorney.
Because that's where Melbourne has a really clear advantage. And you talk finals footy, Pez, and finals footy is a contested game. It's tight. It's, the ground ball, get the ball is very contested. There's a lot of ball ups, about to say jump balls in. And the thing that wins finals is clearances. And Melbourne are a top clearance side and a top possession side. They're ranked first in the competition for that, and that's the football that's really turned around their season as of late. And coming into the last 12 weeks, they're 9-3 Pairs. Collingwood are only 8-4, so not that much difference. But Melbourne have hit form. They beat them early in the year as well. You spoke about the matchup earlier in the year that Melbourne won. And Melbourne won at Pairs when Collingwood were in flying form. They were probably playing their best of the season. They come out absolutely firing at the start of the season. Melbourne were able to get the chocolates in that one. They probably should have won by 4 or 5 goals. But to me, this game is going to be won in that midfield. They've got elite stars in there. Petrarca, one of the Brownlow favourites. You had Oliver, who's starting to get a couple games under his belt. The Gawn's going to get first look at it. You got Viney that's been in there. You got Brayshaw. There's so many stars in that Melbourne midfield that's going to control the pill and give them first opportunity. Melbourne have really struggled to score in other sort of final series and early in this year. The last month, though, that they've really hit form. Bailey Fritsch has been absolutely amazing. He won a grand final basically off his own boot, and he's been in ripping form. Van Ruin, whilst he's still young, he still gets a decent sort of look at it. Going to take the third defender there. You got really disappointing the surprise packet Pez, your man, that he's got injured, but that's opened the door for Tom McDonald. So this is going to be a really interesting one because Melbourne have a great defence. Collingwood are a smaller offence, smaller forward line. They're going to have to really run that fast-paced footy that they love. And when they get going, Pez, watching those connections, Harlem Globetrotter sort of stuff, they absolutely look firing. But if they can avoid that Melbourne setting up, getting those contested marks, they can give themselves a crack at it.
Well, you're going to have to do that. I think defence is going to be a massive factor in this game, and whoever can set up better and run defensively. I think both sides have the wings to be able to move that ball quickly, and who's going to be brave to try and go through that middle and try and get the score on the board because who's going to be the more attacking side? Not necessarily that's the side that's going to win it. They could cause turnovers, could do lots of things, but it's going to be a real interesting watch. And I'm leaning towards Demons. I'm not going to be putting a bet in this game, not even with that same game multi-special source, because some of the disposal markets and some of the goal scorer markets, they've been crunched all year and the value isn't there. So I'm not even risking it on that. I'm just enjoying the game and there's going to be no bet from me.
No bet from you. That's Yeah, that's different. That's different. I like a couple of things in this one, Pez. I really like the under. If we look at since 2010, the over/under 33 out of the 52 games, Pez, in the first week of the final series altogether, they've gone under. The last 2 years, 1 out of 8 in the first games have gone over. So only one of those out of the last 8 elimination, or what are these now? What do they call it? The qualifying final. So only 1 out of the last 8 has gone over. The average score across the final series in the last 10 years is 161. So they're the numbers that I look for. I looked early in the week, Pez. As I said, I jumped on 2 units, sports bet, 165.5, the under, and that absolutely got crunched, Pez. Absolutely got crunched.
10 points in already.
So, I mean, that's huge. So my numbers have this game sitting about 157. So, I think it possibly will still go under that 155 at the moment. So what I've done is I've gone in, and I think Melbourne are going to win as well. I talked about the contested footy that they're going to control their forward line, whilst is questionable how they're going to score. It has been firing over the last month. I'm really concerned about Collingwood's offense. Mason Cox as your vocal point. I really don't like that. The smaller sort of forwards there can put some impact on there, but they're going to need to have a strategy to get past those big, tall defenders. So I've gone, it's 2-leg same-game multi with Sportsbet. Melbourne at the 204, plus I've added the alternate line, 175, the under. That gives me odds of 260, and I've put 2 units there. So I've got 4 units on the first game, heavily relying on the under, Pez, but one of them's a free hit. So if the under gets up, I'm basically going to be loving life. So huge first one, Pez.
Two very different takes. So you said you were worried about Collingwood's forward line and scoring ability.
Well,
I'm worried.
I'm worried if they can.
I'm worried about your health and safety and well-being, because cheering for Melbourne in the Collingwood cheer squad, and with a couple of big bets on Melbourne, I'm not liking your chances to walk out of there alive.
I'm a very likable bloke, and I'm sure the Collingwood supporters who are reasonable people will see. It's good to have some alternative views to football.
Best of luck on the Thursday night.
Crickets.
I may or may not speak to you on the Friday.
Well, that's why I need the 4 units there, Pez, because I'll need to pay for the insurance with that. I won't talk about that. Let's get on to the Friday night clash. Another big one, staying at the MCG. Carlton taking on Sydney. $1.49 favourites are the Blues in their first final in almost 10 years, Pez. So, the return to form, playing the reigning runners-up, 265 outside of the Sydney Swans, minus 13.5 is the line, over under 158.5, Pez. Carlton are back. They're coming. We heard about this 15 years ago that they're coming. They're finally here. The lid is off, Pez. Can the Blues win it from 5th?
Well, this is... you'd think the pressure would be off, because, they had a really
more than ever, is it on?
They had a bad start to the season, had a massive winning streak, had a bit of a hiccup last week, but you wouldn't be... Would you be worried about it? I'm not too worried about it for Carlton, to be honest, but I'm thinking Sydney. This is a real danger game, because Sydney could come out and do anything. It's not just a game where Carlton's going to finally get into the finals with a home final against an interstate club and just automatically win. Now they've got the game style to be able to do it. They've got some of the players, but the Swans they've showed some good form. They've shown that they're able to compete against sides, especially at this ground as well. And with Lance Franklin out for the season, it's actually helped, not hindered the Swans. They've had a couple of things, and from a grand final team last year, they've made it last year. It doesn't mean anything now. Nothing means anything on Friday night when you cross that white line. But Errol Goulden to have a massive game. You've got Isaac Heaney, who's been a bit off this season, and he can pop up for a big game as well. So I'm really looking forward to the midfield battle again, because if Carlton can get on top, they've got the forward power to be able to do this. They've got the small forwards who can pop up and kick some goals as well. But Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay, you've got them two up forward. If they can take some marks, they can have some set shots at goal and, not get the yips and kick straight and get that momentum flowing. That's when Carlton play their best footy. So that's how they're going to win this game.
Yeah, to me, it's going to be all in that midfield. The football brand that the Carlton have played the last month, led by Cripps, Chera, Walsh, George Hewitt, and even Paddy Dowd in the last couple of weeks, him being in there.
His inclusion has been great.
It's been huge, and it's something that they've been talking about for Carlton. We actually mentioned at the start of the year about less is more with Carlton, and they're just allowing not a huge range of talent and superstars to be doing this, dominating games. They're just doing the team thing. They're getting the ball forward. They got the Coleman medalist, and he's in ripping form as well. So I'm really worried for Sydney in this one, how they're going to stop that forward line, because Sydney's got a huge deficit down back, and you're coming up against the Coleman medalist as well as McKay in there as well. Him coming back, they've got a couple of good little small forwards who have been able to pop up Carlton, and I'm really worried for Carlton for Sydney, because if Carlton can get a hold of that forward line, they can get a lot of entries there, which their midfield has definitely proven over the last month or so. This game could really open up for Carlton. The only thing that's going to let them down is accuracy. $1.51 though, for me, is really short. I'm a little bit surprised. The experience up the other end, Sydney, they're proven, they're young, they're hungry. They've ripped off 6 of the last 7 games for wins. They were extremely competitive against Melbourne last week. That fourth quarter blew open. They're a good side, and I think that a lot of people are selling them short. I think the bookies definitely have sold them short in this one. To me, this is an even money game. Yeah, I would have this as an even money game. Pez, 265 outside of the Sydney Swans, and a plus 13.5 head start. I'd be leaning towards that. I think Sydney have enough young talent there, and their forward line, there's a lot of different ways that Sydney can kill you and hurt you. And I think that if they can get a hold of that midfield and they can contain some of those blokes that we talked about, then they'll be in for this. And 13.5, to me, that's a huge head start for a team that was runners up last year.
Yeah, when I was doing the numbers and having a look at this game, I saw the 13.5. It looked not bad, but MCG in a final, all the pressure here. This is what I love to think about in finals. All the pressure here is on the Carlton Footy Club, because they're going to be an absolute laughing stock if they lose this game. All the Carlton fans are going to be burning their memberships again and burning the merchandise, and the people that are going to have the biggest laugh is the Collingwood supporters. So even if Collingwood lose on Thursday night, or if they win, doesn't matter. They're going to be all eyes on this game, because they do not want the Carlton Footy Club in finals at all. Sydney, nothing to lose. No one expected them to be in the finals at mid-year. They've scraped their way in with a couple of close wins throughout the season, and they're there. They've finished 8th, and they're in with a shot in this game, and they need to have massive games from individuals to be able to win this game. But doesn't every big final have to do that? So my lean would be the Sydney plus 13.5 at the moment, but no bet again in this for me, because if I was going head to head with the 12-odd special, Carlton are too short. I don't think Sydney are going to win the game, so I'm not going to go there either. But it's finals footy, and I'm starting to get excited about it, Sauce.
It's going to be a cracking game, and like, as I said, you know that I'm surprised at how different the odds are in this one. There's almost, what's that? Was that $1.20? $1.20 difference in this, and that's huge. That's huge for a finals game for a team that once they got rolling, Sydney. Remember at the start of the year they had so many injuries. Now they're rolling. They've got their finals team in there, basically from last year, taking on an unproven Carlton side. Most of those blokes wouldn't have played finals. If so, it's a couple of their senior blokes.
Carlton had 3/4 of rest last week though, and then another week off.
But is that good? Is that what you want? Is that what you want coming into finals cold? Like, the Sydney were playing a good brand of footy last week. They took it to Melbourne. I'm leaning towards Sydney, the plus 13.5. I might, depends how much I'm up on the Thursday. Might have a little dabble at the 265 on Bluebed. But let's get into the one that I know that you're super nervous about. And it's going to be interesting to hear your insights in this, Pez. You've got two of your favourite teams, really. You're painting the town orange, GWS.
We know orange paint this week.
Your Saints, Kilda Saints. I'm going to let you do a lot of your talking, Pez, because the one thing you do really well is not only talk about the Saints, but you're an honest commentary on the Saints, as well as your knowledge on GWS and AFL. I'm really interested to hear where you're going, and I'm guided by you. So the Saints taking on GWS at the MCG. Surprising venue choice, $2.10 outsiders. Pez, repeat, outsiders are the Saints. $1.75 favourites, the Giants, minus 3.5 is the line. 6 taking on 7th. Absolute cracker for your Saturday night.
Yeah, or
Saturday afternoon, sorry.
Yeah, Saturday afternoon, and here we go with the Giants and the Saints. It's all been the talk that the Giants have been absolutely storming home, and they're primed and ready for finals and things like that. Both sides haven't played at the MCG very often, so
they've never played each other at the MCG ever.
There you go. So it's not going to be a massive advantage for either side, but I think it's going to be more of an advantage for St Kilda being in Victoria still, not having to travel. In saying that, GWS have equaled the record of 10 different venue wins as well, when there hasn't been as many venues around like Waverley Park and all of those different venues. So GWS have done really well as a travelling side. They've got the biggest game breaker in the league in Toby Green, and can he do it at the MCG, and get them to that second week in finals? You know what St Kilda have up their sleeve? They've got Ross Lyon, and him to be able to try and shut this game down would be absolutely fantastic. They won by 12 points last time up at Giants Stadium. It was a scrappy affair, and St Kilda, just kept that lead. Giants kept coming back, and St Kilda kept doing that. Max King will be a massive inclusion if he gets up, and I think he does get up here. And it's just all about how are you going to run that defense, and how are you going to make it work at the MCG, because you've got to cover more space than at Marvel. Because if this game's at Marvel, both sides prefer that ground, but I think St Kilda would be favourites if it's at Marvel Stadium. Because at the MCG, the tables have turned, and I just think that Max King, Rowan Marshall behind the ball, and he's going to ruck 80-90% of the day and just be able to dominate. St Kilda have to have a really big day in that midfield as well, and stop the out kicks from Josh Kelly, Lockie Whitfield, because if GWS start hitting their targets and they take it on and go through that midfield, one player I am worried about, Himmelberg in defence for the Giants. He's been playing super well and intercepting that ball. So you've got to lower your eyes when you go into that 50. You've got a lot of space there at the MCG, and you just need to find that target, and you need to not be selfish, because St Kilda have a couple of players in Jade Gresham and Jack Higgins who can be very, very good players on the day, but you get them 40 metres out, Sauce. You don't want them kicking for goal. You want them to be passing it off. So you don't want to be selfish. You want to be able to get that in there to be able to score enough and score enough to win. But it's all about defense for the Saints here, and can they stop these Giants and stop Jesse Hogan?
Yeah, and that's what has got the Giants rolling, Pez. The last 9 of their last 11 games, that's what they've won. It has all been because of that forward line. Toby Green, the All-Australian captain. And just quickly on a separate note, thank God the AFL has recognised how freaking good Toby Green is, and he's absolutely killing it this year. But him with Hogan, the way that they've moved that forward, it's been huge. They're the number one team in the competition from points from turnover. Playing at the MCG though, you say that it advantages St Kilda, but I would much prefer the Saints to be playing at Marvel in this one. That smaller ground allows them to really contain it. I don't know if the amount of room that the MCG is going to provide, if that's going to really hold up GWS. They're very good at moving the ball. They're very good at that swinging, going up those sides. I'll be interested to see how you're able to sort of stop that, because if they can get rolling, they're going to hurt you score-wise, Pez. You've got an advantage in the ruck. Your midfield has been absolutely fantastic. Sinclair has been an absolute star. And, in order for the Giants to be competitive in this one, they need to stop him getting out the back. And I know that quite often they've been chucking a man up forward. Not Taylor. What's the other bloke's name? I can't think of his name. The defender that they put up. I can't think of his name anyway.
Himmelberg sometimes goes up.
Is it Himmelberg? Nah, there's another bloke that they put in there, and I can't think of his name. It eludes me. But they've been pushing him up forward to take out one of their midfielders, the opposition midfielders, and really tag them and push them on the outside. Hopefully they do that again if the Giants are going to win, because Sinclair has been absolutely dominant. He's been a huge part in getting you rolling. A lot of people are looking at this game, Pez, saying that the Saints are not a top 8 side, and you snuck into finals on a couple of weird results, and you've beaten teams that have been underneath you. I really like the Saints in this one. I think that...
Here we go.
I haven't got a bet in this one, Pez, and I will be obviously cheering for the Giants, because the St Kilda's knocked Geelong out of the final. So I'm
don't
all
be
over.
like that. That's you.
You ever start. You've never been on Geelong in any of these finals.
Never.
So.
They're a Victorian side. You know that. Everyone knows that.
So that's why I'm back on the Giants, Pez. They were dead to me early in the year, and
I would
they're
expect
back.
you to be on the Giants because you are a piece of shit. But you look at the recent form as well, and people have been talking about the media hyped up the Giants, that they're
Sam
run.
Taylor was that bloke's name, by the way.
they're one of the best defenders in the league.
Yeah.
Well, he goes forward. You pop him forward.
No, they've been putting him up in that midfield at the stoppages to be able to stop that sometimes.
Yeah, definitely not going forward. But
I didn't say forward. No.
That's why I got confused. But anyway, the Giants in their last 5, they beat the Bulldogs by 5 points, and the Bulldogs missed the finals. They lost to the Swans by 11. Their Sauce. They lost to Port Adelaide. They got pummeled by Port Adelaide. They beat the Bombers by 126 points, one of the worst teams in the comp. And they beat the Blues, who didn't play footy for 3 quarters because they had 5th position locked up. So I don't see where that's coming from. You look at St Kilda's last 3. They dominated against Richmond. They kicked the crap out of a Geelong team playing for their season. And
Kick the crap.
and the Brisbane Lions, like they probably never going to win that game. But to only lose that game by 12 points and to keep Brisbane to a score of 72, I'm not too disappointed in that lead in, and I'm glad the Saints get to play in Victoria. And they, GWS at one stage were going to play at Giant Stadium when they had a couple of goals, and Carlton had to kick a couple of goals at the end to get that percentage back down. But I'm putting a couple of units blue bet on the Saints, 12 up special. Let's get to it.
We had this chat before the podcast, Pez, that this final series, you weren't going to bet with your heart.
No, betting with the head.
You're full of shit. Pez ends up throwing away a lot of his money when it gets into grand final when he just goes, I just don't want this team to win, so I'm putting all my money on it because that'll help the result.
I've spoken about that on the podcast in the past, and not to follow my grand final bets, because if it's an interstate club against a Victorian club, I'm always on the interstate. And it's only paid off in 2018 when West Coast beat Collingwood.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I'd probably be leaning towards St Kilda. I think that they've been totally underrated. As you said, they're playing in Melbourne. GWS don't play at Melbourne they don't play Melbourne that often. If they do end up beating the Saints, Pairs, they'll have won at almost every game except for the Gabba. So they'll win every ground except for the Gabba this season, which is a record in itself. And
they could possibly have the opportunity to go to the Gabba depending on the other result as well.
Quite often what you see with these games, Pairs, is the team that sort of needs to win all those games coming in there falls apart, and they were reliant on the last sort of rounds. We quite often see that the last team to sneak in doesn't make much noise. They were lucky with a couple of things that they end up getting into that 7th spot.
I was wanting to play Sydney as a St Kilda supporter,
but they were lucky with that, and they've come from a long way back. As I said, 9 of the last 11 that they've won.
You think of their season, round 2, they lost to West Coast, who had one of the worst AFL seasons ever, and you thought, bang, season shot.
I mean, they've had a coaching change in there, and Kingsley's done a great job with the boys there. But to me, this is normally what happens. The trend is that these teams sneak in, they make it there, they do this. Oh, we made it, and then the team that's been there all year hasn't been in the 8 all year. Drops them.
They can win on the day. They've got an absolutely elite top 4.
Oh, they do.
They've got a really good top 6 or 8 players, but I think it drops off in their bottom 8 of their best 23. I think it really drops off for the Giants, and on their day, they can beat anyone.
Of course.
And anyone can beat anyone,
and they've been, banging the chest of that underdog sort of character all year. And with Toby Green, one of the best captains, they've got an amazing sort of leadership group there. And when they get rolling, they are hard to stop. The giant tsunami, as they keep calling it there, the orange tsunami, they're hard to stop, get rolling. But they're coming up against an elite defense, the number 1 in the competition. They're playing at a ground, whilst that doesn't favour St Kilda's defensive style, is in their home backyard. So why wouldn't he be on the Saints? And at $2.10, I love that value.
Let's get around the Saints. I'll be there Saturday, and it'll be heart-wrenching. It'll be either be heartbreaking, or we play another week and travel interstate the week after.
Yeah, hopefully you don't. Hopefully the Giants win that one. Anyway, let's get on to the Saturday night clash, Pairs. Oh, come on, don't be like that, Pairs. A little bit of bit of banter. You know that I hope the Saints win, but
no, you don't.
No, I don't.
I wouldn't if I were you.
Nah, because they knocked my bloody team out. Well, let's get on to the last one. Second playing third, Brisbane taking on Port Adelaide. $1.44 favourites are Brisbane. $2.82 outsiders. The Power. The shortest and longest odds in this final series, -15.5. Is the line. Over under 172.5. Pez, the number one question that everyone will be asking is, can Brisbane put it on the scoreboard? The last couple of final series, it seems like they put it together. They were disappointing last year in their last game. They really, really, really bombed out against the Cats. In saying that, the Cats were probably on the trajectory for a final leading into that final series. But, that'll be the big question with Brisbane, and that'll be in their head. We know finals is the mental game, Pez. Is that any reason to be getting on the Power at 282?
Okay, some other vested interests in the Brisbane Lions here. So I'll be, passionately cheering for the Lions on Saturday night. I hope they can keep their form at the Gabba alive this year, where they've beaten the other two top 4 teams in Collingwood and Melbourne really early in the season, Sauce at the Gabba, as underdogs in, I think, both of those games. So they were able to get the job done there. They've just, teetered their way into second place, and a couple of results went their way. And ever since, was it 2020, the COVID year, where they could have played the grand final at the Gabba had they have made it, and they ended up losing to Richmond, I think, in that prelim final at the Gabba. You win 2 finals here at the Gabba, you play a grand final, and grand final MCG, if Brisbane make it, you don't really worry about the MCG hoodoo. It's either you win or you lose. Yep. Like you've got one of 2 options. So I'm really big on the Lions here. I'll throw 2 units at them on Blue Bet with the 12 up special at $1.45. Was leaning towards something else at a little bit bigger odds, but with that 12 up special, I will take the low price head to head, hoping that someone can fire for that Brisbane Lions forward line. You got Zach Bailey up there who can, star and kick a couple of goals. You got Charlie Cameron, of course. Joe Danaher can do anything. I hope he does share the ball a little bit more. You've got Hipwood if he kicks straight. McInerney's really big for them in the ruck. He can play defensive as well. And Port Adelaide, although having a couple of superstars, they are still really young, and they're going to have to travel into another state to play a big final in front of a big Brisbane crowd. I'm just not sure that they're going to be able to do it. So up the Lions.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Pez. The $1.44 is great money there. I've got 2 units on them, a Blue Bet as well. I don't mind the line either at -15.5. I am a little bit...
the 15.5, it's a hard number.
It's a hard number. Yeah. You are correct. If it was like the 13.5 before, I'd eat that shit up, because 3 goals is exactly what you want. I imagine the problem with Brisbane is exactly that. If they're kicking straight, they're going to get so many forward entries. They're one of the number 1 offenses in the league.
And momentum team.
And they are a massive momentum.
If they get it going, bang. And
especially the Gabba's turned into a bit of a fortress too when they are
exactly,
going, and they've got the music going. It becomes quite jovial and fun, and I think that that will relax them. And if they can get an early start, they're going to pump Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide haven't been in great form, and as you said, we forget that they are quite a young side. They surprised a lot of people this year in the way that they've played. The last month or so, that's really dropped off.
Yeah, and Zach Butters he had a really good season. You got Rosie in the middle. You've got the young Horn Francis, who he's gone missing in games as well. Even though we love him over there at Port Adelaide, but it's absolutely massive. It's got to be a complete turnaround, because Brisbane got done by 10 goals over at Amy Stadium. Was that round 1? I think it was, which is absolutely unbelievable. Looking at those 2 sides heading into the season, and they finish 2nd and 3rd to play here. The thing that's interesting for me is, the other side, if you flip this and Port Adelaide somehow finish 2nd, like who would be favourite? Port Adelaide to be slight favourite, I think, but it'd be closer to even money.
Well, they're going to be playing in Adelaide though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, where do the odds sit? Is it the same but flipped? Or it's a lot closer.
I would say it would be even money.
Yeah,
I'd say
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, sorry.
So
I thought you were saying that if they win, like if they would get into the prelim, like that, what would the odds be?
Oh no, if they get into the prelim, they're going to be favourites there. Either of these sides, because they get a home prelim. It's going to be absolutely massive for both of them. And if they lose, it's a really hard road to make it to grand final day. And I don't think it can be done.
No, and like Brisbane have, they were disappointing last year. Towards the end, that they gave away that home final, because if they had that home final last year, they probably were looking at a grand final berth. This Brisbane team, and we said this at the start, Pez, they are primed for September. They are ready now.
They've been primed for a couple of years.
But they've been sort of early on. They snuck in that double chance early on where they went out in straight sets, and now they're starting to do. They got the hoodoo off their back last year. This is huge. You look at their last 5 games coming in there, beat the Saints by 12 points. Huge game. They defeated Collingwood by 24 points. That was in Melbourne too. So they came down to Melbourne. They knocked off the number 1 team. They beat Adelaide, who was fighting for their season, by 6 points. Defeated Fremantle by 3, who has been a really tough out in the last month. And then they had a free hit against the Gold Coast Suns, where they just gave away a nice little easy win for that. They are primed for their pairs. They're the team ranked first for points from turnover, inside 50 differential, second in points for and score per inside 50 efficiency. They're a top offensive side. If they can get this rolling, they're going to absolutely smash them. The other thing I wouldn't sleep on is that 172. That's quite high for the rest of the games, but quite low for a Melbourne and Port Adelaide side when they have that free-flowing football. And as you said, Brisbane are a momentum team, so I've got 2 units on them at $1.40, 144.
So the 172, where's your lean? At the over or the under?
I'd be looking at the over. Yeah,
the over in a big final.
Yep, definitely.
Because you think about it, if you think Brisbane are going to smash them, like that's where the free-flowing footy will happen. It'll end up being bruise-free footy in that last quarter if the game's already done, and goals should flow in the music, hopefully. Plays over and over again for those Brisbane Lions on Saturday night.
I've not that it matters a bit. My sort of metrics have the game sitting at 181. So that's still with them Brisbane winning by 28 points. So and then
here we go.
The metrics,
margin.
The metrics have been pretty good this year, Pez. And as I said, I think Brisbane are going to very quickly turn into the premiership favourite at the end of this round. No matter what happens in the other ones, they're going to turn straight into that premiership favourite.
If they win, they are definitely
I think halfway through that first quarter, Pez, they are going to look super impressive because they are prime Brisbane.
And whoever wins on Thursday night and gets that home MCG final, they're going to be second favourite.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, obviously they are.
Who else is going to be?
But obviously they are going to be the second favourite. But Melbourne or Collingwood would have to really destroy their opposition to really, to knock off Brisbane as that favourite. Because I think Brisbane have hit form. They've been impressive. They've got a definite home ground advantage. I know Collingwood does. Melbourne, I mean, it's ski season, so probably not. But I think Brisbane's going to be the team to beat this year.
All right, something I want to happen in the finals, not banking on it or anything, but wouldn't you love to see Collingwood lose to Melbourne and then Carlton to beat the Swans to have an elimination week 2, Carlton versus
Amazing.
Collingwood? That's when you'd have to make, let a couple of prisoners out of jail.
Well, they wouldn't be able to access ticket tech anyway.
Just free, not to put them to the game, just to free up cells for who's going to have to go in there.
I thought you meant let them in the game so they could get all their supporter bases there.
Not at all, but that would be massive if that was to happen. That's insane.
It is definitely insane. And speaking of insane, Pez, I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen the Sportsbet's little promotion that they've been running, the Pick 9?
I saw it on the app, but I don't know what it is.
It is the stupidest thing.
You got to pick all 9 games.
You got to pick all 9 games, and they give you ridiculous odds. So ridiculous odds.
Why would you ever do that?
You'd be better to back who you think's going to win every single game.
The games aren't at the same spot. So we've spoken about this in the past. If you put a multi-bet for all 4 games head-to-head, just don't do it, because just put a single bet of what you would have for the first game. And if you still like that bet, you put your bet and your winnings onto the second game and you roll it over and you keep rolling it. And that's what a multi pays out. So there's no point putting Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturdays and Saturday nights game all in a multi, because anything can happen. There can be massive injuries at training on Friday and you really don't like your bet anymore. Just relax.
It's so ridiculous. I'm just looking at it now. Like, if you think your Saints are going to win this week, Pez, you think Saints are going to win and you think you're going to win the premiership, you're $326 odds.
Why?
So, well, Collingwood are going to win, Carlton's going to win, St Kilda's going to win.
But that's all got to
Brisbane's
happen,
gonna
yeah?
win. And then the week after, Melbourne's going to win, and then St Kilda's going to win. And then the week after that, St Kilda's going to win the prelim. And then you've got here Brisbane as one of the options to win, and then you're going to beat Brisbane at odds of 326. Why would you waste your money on that?
Why wouldn't I just go hard at the $2.10 this week?
Why wouldn't you just
against GWS and then just see what happens?
And St Kilda are probably one of the bottom teams in terms of AFL Premiership anyway. Put a cheeky one on that. Go hard this week and then just roll it over.
And that is not financial advice. Do not put any money on the Saints for the Premiership because it is very, very, very unlikely.
$34, Pez. Cheeky 100 on that one, and you are laughing.
You know what? I'm just going to keep a lid on things, and the lids are staying on over here, unlike those Carlton supporters where the lid's off absolutely
Mate, if they win this week, the lid will be blown off.
But if they win, they already know their opponent the next week, and it's either going to be Collingwood or Melbourne.
Yeah, it's huge Melbourne final. And like Carlton are pretty lucky too. Like on the way that they run, they can stay in Melbourne for they might only have to go to Brisbane and win one game out interstate. or Port Adelaide. They only have to leave Melbourne once. That's not a bad thing for finishing fifth.
Oh, for outside the top four. Very hard to win the premiership from outside the top four. Yes,
so.
it's been done before, but...
we hear you Bulldogs fans, and how's your premiership hunt been after that one, eh?
You would think the two teams that win the prelim are the only two teams that have a chance to win the grand final. You'd say, yeah, Sauce?
Win the prelim.
I'm talking about the prelim.
I would say that.
It's pretty obvious.
I would say that. You mean to win the qualifying final?
No, I actually meant to win the prelim just to try and trick you there, because if they win the prelim, they're the only teams in it.
Yeah, well, no shit. Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're good. I think they're a good chance if they win the prelim, Pez. So maybe 50-50, I'd say.
Oh yeah, well, I think the team that wins that interstate final will make the grand final. There. Well,
yeah, no shit. There's going to be one interstate. Well, possibly not.
Yeah, well, possibly not, but that's what I'm saying. That's my thing. And the team that wins that other final, it's still up in the air.
Take your Saints out of it, Pez. Who's the team looking in the best form? Let's stop all this hypothetical bullshit about Brisbane looking in the best form. So you go Brisbane at the $3.75 for premiership, or $1.91 to make the grand final.
Yeah, $1.91 to make the grand final. I would like, but I wouldn't like that because that's like multiing up. I would just bet on Brisbane this week. And roll it into the prelim.
If they make the grand final, just
and roll it into the prelim. It's silly, but there you go. There's a couple of bets. They'll be on the spreadsheet at Behind the Bound on Twitter. We've got TikTok, Instagram, all of that.
Got a couple of videos going this one, Pez.
Oh, do you?
Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to have
give it to the intern and see what he can come up with.
Been busy this week.
Yeah, that's it. I'm Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Sauce. We'll catch up next week.
Now you're gone.